Okay. All right. I see what you guys were talking about. Hey everybody, my name's Ben, also known as Manga Theater, and I am a voice actor, and wannabe comic book writer and artist, and I have been a fan of manga and anime for many, many years, if that, you didn't already get that from the name of the channel. Now, with all this in mind, you're probably thinking, Ben, why have you not read or watched Full Metal Alchemist? And that is a good question. Throughout the entire anime fandom, it is a pretty much set rule that this is one of the greatest, if not the best, shonen of all time. So why haven't I read it? Well, I don't really have a good reason. My only reason is that I like to save stories like these. There's a couple of stories there, such as Hunter x Hunter, Bleach, Naruto, and this, that I know that I'm going to absolutely love them because all of my friends do, and the overall majority of the anime community does as well. So I like to save these stories for, a rainy day, or when I'm immensely bored, or when I need them the most. And I've started this tradition a few years back. Every summer I try to read a gigantic shonen that I have not even touched before. 4 years ago it was One Piece, last year it was One Punch Man, 2 years ago it was Fire Force, and this year it is Full Metal Alchemist. So for those of you who have seen the other videos on the channel, such as my Frieren review or my Tatami Galaxy review, go check those out. Those were very much formal reviews that I sat down, I scripted out, and I really dissected the story. However, these are going to be very different style of videos since these are so big and there have been so many different reviews of Full Metal Alchemist. This is just going to be my initial thoughts, very much unscripted, just me talking about what I liked, what I saw, and everything in between, and I liked almost every single minute of it. So here's how I'm doing this, right? There are a whole bunch of opinions about how you should consume Full Metal Alchemist. A lot of people say that you should just read the manga. A lot of people say that you should watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. There is a vocal minority of people who say that the original is the best way to consume the content, even though it drifted off in certain places and was going on when the manga didn't finish. But it still says that stylistically and artistically, it's up there. However, the way that I'm watching it is I'm starting with watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and then I'm reading along with the Full Metal Alchemist Full Metal Edition. Afterwards, I'm going to watch Full Metal Alchemist, the original, and that's when we're going to do a full review of the series. I want to take in everything, every aspect of media before we start talking about it. But as I said, this is just what we're going to be talking about, the canon version of it. So I've read Volume 1 of Full Metal Alchemist, the Full Metal Edition, and I've watched the first 5 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And oh man, I'm so excited to talk about it. Arakawa's work is known all throughout the world as one of the best stories of all time, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. Okay, so the first 5 chapters of the manga and the first 5 episodes of Brotherhood does not correlate at all. Of course, there are, once you get to chapter 3 and episode 3 of episode 2. No, episode 3 of Brotherhood. That's when it starts to really align. However, there are some differences here. So first, we're going to talk about the first 2 episodes of Brotherhood. So the first episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is an anime original. It's such a good first episode, just outright, that I was genuinely surprised that it was not in the manga originally. It does a really good job of setting up Edward and Alphonse, of course, the Elric brothers, who are the lead characters of the series. It does a really good job of just giving you a taste of the power system, of like setting up just what the powers are without over-explaining it to you. Right? It doesn't over-explain it because it doesn't need to at this point, but it gives you just what you need to know, right? Like, a lot of the alchemists need to use that circle on the floor. What McDougal, who is the bad guy of this episode, he has to go around town setting up these circles so that he can freeze Central over in ice, and that's his big plan. And we learned that Edward is kind of a prodigy in that sense, and that he just makes this circle with his hands, and he's able to use that as a alchemist power, which is really cool. It's a really subtle way for him, like, not to have to do the circle all the time. It's great. I think it's awesome. It does a great job of setting up some of the supporting characters. I love Roy Mustang already off the bat. He's fantastic. His dub and sub actor knocks it out of the freaking park. He's great. I already know he's going to be one of my favorite characters. And it's the same with the Elric brothers. Like, the Elric brothers is already one of my favorite duos in all of anime, and I've only watched 5 episodes. It's really good. But yeah, the episode does not, like, oh my god, I forgot to talk about Armstrong. Oh my god, it's literally All Might. Like, when I heard Chris Sabat voicing him, I was like, oh, of course. And it's great because he's voicing him like because you can't see his mouth because of the beard, but he's like All Might, just with a little bit of a muffle. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. He's perfect for that character. Sonny Strait also plays a character who gets a good introduction in here. Without this episode, I don't think his character would get a really good introduction. So I think they did really good there in setting him up because I really liked him. I forgot his name, but he's great. First episode giving you a teaser into the backstory and the history of not just the world, but our 2 main characters. There's that really good scene where McDougal finds out that they did the transformative or transmorphication, taboo, human transmutation. Which is a big no-no in the Full Metal Alchemist world, and they tried that, and that's the reason why Alphonse doesn't have a body, and it's the reason why Edward doesn't have an arm or a leg. And there's that really good scene where Edward goes, you know, wow, you just took this a little bit too far. I really like the sub version of it where he's like, you just took one step closer to hell, and it's like, oh man, this is great. This is really good. So yeah, I don't want to dive too much into episode 1 because that'll be obviously saved for a review of everything. Oh my gosh, my cat is bringing stuff over. Do you want to come up here? Yeah, I see. I told you it's unscripted. Very much. Hello. Yes, good boy. On to episode 2. It's originally in the manga. I think this is like chapter like 20 or 30. So they kind of gone the route of like an opposite version of Vinland Saga. So in the Vinland Saga manga, it starts with Thorfinn as a teen with Askeladd. I don't know if you see the scene with the granny and stuff like that, and he gains their trust and stuff, only for the Vikings to come and absolutely destroy their village. But you definitely see him attack the castle, and that's a good way just to get you like, bam, this is what the story's about. This is a whole bunch of action, and then they give you the backstory now that you're invested. But the anime doesn't do that. The anime just follows the story chronologically, which I think a lot of times does help the audience member to understand what's going on. However, there is an argument to say that following stuff chronologically is a disinteresting way to do it. I mean, one of the best people of backstories in manga is Ichiro Oda, and he uses backstories in such a fantastic way to go, I give you the backstory when you need it the most, so that when it's the climax of the battle, you're like, yeah, I really want the hero to beat this guy. For this, it's hard to tell whether or not I like it being here at the beginning rather than later on in the story, because I haven't gotten there in the manga yet. But as of right now, I like the placement of it. And as of right now, I mean, this isn't going to change. Their backstory is awesome. Who their dad is obviously has importance in the story. I think we see him in the opening. By the way, I just want to say this. The opening and the ending of this series, oh my god, especially the ending. The ending is like so angelic. Oh my god, it's been stuck in my head so long. Oh my god, it's so good. I texted my friend Edgar, who I run my other channel with, and he was like, yeah man, that ending is just, it makes you want to like grow wings and fly. It's so good. And the visuals is great. But yeah, so in episode 2, the Elric brothers are kids. They're really wholesome. Obviously, their dad has gone away. Their dad was an alchemist. That might be why they are interested in alchemy as well. However, things take a turn for the sour. Their mother dies, and they try to bring her back. This is really good. This is when, like, it really, I was like, oh, this is special, right? As a storyteller and as an audience member, we want power systems that giveth and taketh away. We want power systems drawbacks, because then there's no stakes without them. A good example of this is My Hero Academia, right? A lot of the quirks, they have a drawback. Take like Shoto, for instance. One of the reasons why he has the ice quirk is to not overheat. And that's something that we see with his father, Endeavor. He overheats all the time, and he has to be cooled by Shoto or cooled by one of his sidekicks who has an ice quirk. And we love that because that raises the stakes for all of these characters. That's why I love the Kaioken in Dragon Ball Z. It's one of my favorite moves because it's like it has a drawback. Like if he uses it too much, he could ruin his body. So this is a big cornerstone of this series already. Once you give something to alchemy, it's gonna take something away. That's a fantastic introduction to your power system. Very similar to the devils in Chainsaw Man, right? You get the power, you have like, you give them your eye or something. The Elric brothers lose a part of their bodies, Alphonse losing his entire body, and I love the idea of Alphonse just being an empty suit of armor with a kid's voice, right? You look at this, okay, well, he's not on the cover of this. Let me see if I can find him. You look at this, right? This guy right here, right? You see him and you're like, that guy has a deep voice. This guy has to have a deep voice. But having him have a kid's voice is fantastic. And in the sub and dub, it's so well performed. It's great. It was just so sad seeing Edward in the wheelchair with like those empty eyes. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. But yeah, so that was episode 1 and 2 of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. They are different from the manga, so now this is when they're kind of intersect. So now we're going to be talking about chapter 1 of the manga and episode 3 of Brotherhood. And to be honest, as much as I loved the first 2 episodes, I think this is the perfect starting place for the series. I think it sets up everything that we need to learn, even better than the original, anime original first episode of Brotherhood. It does such a good job of setting up just what the story is about. It just gives you the vibe of it, right? It's got gags. It's got those serious moments that really hit the core of the story. Edward talking about religion, and you can tell that this power system is really based off of science and stuff like that, so he's not really a believer of God. And you can tell that there's going to be religious problems with cult followings later on in the story, and we get a vibe of that in episode 5 as well. Obviously, the villain in this episode is Father Cornello. Our 2 characters are trying to find this thing called the Philosopher's Stone, which is like, I guess it's basically, it's hilarious, it's called a Philosopher's Stone. Magic, obviously, Harry Potter, of course. They're trying to find it to power to get their bodies back. I believe that's the purpose. Their insistence on finding it is huge, and I think it was interesting for them to do the backstory in the anime first. It's fascinating because in the manga you get some of those scenes, right? You get some of those backstory scenes that happens. Edward is like freaking out and he's like, no, bring back my brother, and he's drawing his blood on the suit of armor. You get that scene, so you do get a good vibe of what happens. We also get this episode introduced into the Chimeras. Awesome moment where we get the realization of, the metal arm. I think it hits better in the manga that it's like that, because you don't know that this guy has a metal arm yet, in the manga, and he blocks it and he's like, what, you don't like chewing on that, kitty? What's wrong? And I think that's awesome. This episode was really, really funny and really a lot of fun. But my favorite part of this episode and of this, I don't remember if it's 1 chapter or 2 chapters, but it's when they're walking away from Rose and she's basically telling them that they've ruined everything by killing Father Cornello. Edward is just like, he gets it, right? Because he had the same thing with his mother, and he tells her that you can't bring people back from the dead, Rose. I don't know if maybe this was supposed to be like a different take on the shonen genre. Obviously, the biggest shonen of all time is Dragon Ball, and a big part of that is that nobody really dies in Dragon Ball. And I love Dragon Ball, don't get me wrong. However, it does sometimes, diminish the consequences of the story when people can just be brought back. I don't know if this was like a big message of this series up front to go, no, when people die in this, they die, which is great. He's just like, people don't get brought back from the dead. The best way that you can continue moving forward is get up and keep walking. Also, I didn't even talk about the best line of that scene, which is, at least you have strong enough legs to take you there. Oh my gosh, what a line, particularly since we know that Edward has a mechanical leg. He's like, hey, at least you have legs to keep moving forward. I really like that scene. I know I can't bring my mom back to life, but maybe I can get my brother's body back. And I think that's fantastic. I also really liked the scene in the anime, like when they were running and they're like this, like running in the background like that. Oh, that's so funny. It's so good. I really also liked when Edward bamboozled Cornello. He had like the microphone shaped and he told them everything and it just was broadcast to everybody. It's really great. I almost forgot to talk about the greatest gag in this series, which is everybody thinking Alphonse is a Full Metal Alchemist, which makes sense because he has an armor full of metal. And how angry it makes Edward. He's like, no, I'm the Full Metal Alchemist. People are like, what, that short guy? And he's like, I'm not short. And he goes like ballistic when people call him short. It's so funny. But now we're going to talk about, just real quick, chapters 2 and 3 from the manga, which they chose to omit from the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood series. And I can kind of see why. You know, they kind of give the vibe of like a side quest or a filler, if you would. I don't know if you learn anything important in there. They're kind of funny though. Like I like them, and I understand why they're omitted for story purposes. But I really like these chapters. The second one, a coal mine town, and Edward kind of setting everything straight there by bamboozling like this oligarch in the area who's kind of abusing his power. And then the third one is like this train chase kind of thing, which I thought was great. Fun seeing, I mean, the thing that I like the most about that chapter is that it gives a really good introduction to Roy Mustang. I think it's fascinating that we get in the manga a little bit more resentment towards Roy Mustang from Edward and Alphonse, particularly Edward, show their distaste for him, which I think is fascinating because first time I watched the anime, I didn't see that at all. But that's great. But yeah, it does a great job of introducing him and gives him like this badass introduction, which I think was great, which we didn't get in the anime, right? Because I think in the anime it's raining. The sidekick is like, we know that you're useless in the rain. But yeah, still really great. Lots of funny gags, lots of fun to be had there. I'm kind of sad that they omitted it, and maybe they could have done it like in one episode, but I understand. I'm curious to see if it is in the original. So this is when the manga and the anime completely combine together. Episode 4 and 5 of the anime and chapters 5, 6, and 7 in the manga, I think. And man, episode 4, what the heck? It got so dark so fast. As an anime fan, you know about this. You know about the mad scientist, you know about the kid, and you know about the dog. You know something bad happens, but you don't know what happens, right? You don't know what it's about. I had my inklings that I was like, what does he do to the kid and the dog that is so like dark? And wow. So Sho Tucker, they're taken to his house, and because they want to learn more about a specific type of alchemist, and he's known for making chimeras, which is, as we said in the earlier in this video, that animals combine together, right? And one of his big things is that he's like, if I don't do something special this year, they're gonna take my license away, right? He has a daughter, Nina, and a dog, and the dog and Nina already are just so wholesome, right? You're like, I never want anything bad to happen to these people. The dog immediately jumps on Edward. It's hilarious. But as the story kind of turns out, particularly in the anime, they show more scenes of Sho Tucker being like you can see kind of the madness. In the manga, if I read the manga first throughout, I wouldn't have even known that it was him, right? I wouldn't have even known that this was the guy. Also, I want to say that as I said, an anime fan, you know about the dog and the kid and the doctor and stuff like that. But I thought this was going to happen like in chapter like at least 15. My guess was like it was going to be in chapter 20, and that's when the series gets really dark. But no, it happened in episode 4. 4! I was like, oh my god. So when they come back the third day, the doctor sews his daughter and the dog together, and he's like, let's go, I did it. And Edward beats him, and we get this really good scene. In the dub, it was so good. Tucker is basically like, you and I are the same. I know what you've tried to do, and I've seen what happened to your brother. You and I are the exact same. And that kind of gives Edward like a panic attack, right? And he almost kills the doctor because of it. I forgot to also mention in this episode, we've been introduced into another bad guy who I believe is called Scar. And he's already killed like this very important guy in the military. And so now he's out on the loose. The doctor is subdued, and Scar comes in and kills him, and Mercy kills the daughter. But it was so sad to see Nina and the dog, you know, say like, oh, I want to play, and she's so innocent. She still feels sadness for her father, and it's just like, oh my god, man. Oh my god. It got so dark so fast. What a tone shift, particularly in the manga. That must have hit so hard in the manga, because the last 2 chapters were basically like gag chapters. Oh my gosh. Must have hit so hard, but this is what differentiates this series, I feel like, going forward, is that's what Roy Mustang tells him. I understand he's a kid, but he is going to see far worse than this. And as an audience member, that's like, ooh, ominous. Already the series is hitting on some like philosophical stuff and moral dilemmas with the characters. Like for a shonen, that is spectacular. And I am absolutely in love with everything that the series is putting out so far. But yeah, episode 4, fantastic episode. And then episode 5, we kind of get this confrontation with Scar. And this is the first time that really Alphonse and Edward are on the back foot, right? They confront Scar and they cannot handle him. And that was the big moment of this episode, is Edward like loses his arm. It really hits home the love that the Elric brothers have for each other. But yeah, that fight scene with Armstrong and Scar, oh, it's so awesome. And Armstrong is just this silly like dude with immense power, and he's got like this cool, awesome knuckle stuff. Of course, we think we're gonna see Roy in action in the anime, but it's raining, and his side director is like, "You're useless in the rain. Just don't even try." And he's like, "What?" It's so stupid. It's so dumb. I'm curious. Is there going to be an anime moment, or is there a manga moment? Are they saving the awesomeness of Roy Mustang? Because I know he's a very popular character, and you know I already like him. Are they saving a moment? Bam! This is the true introduction to the power of Roy Mustang. That's why we cut the other chapters out, because this is the true power moment. This is the moment that makes you go, oh, yeah! Oh, you know, so we'll have to see. But yeah, let's go just down into overall thoughts. Overall thoughts. Fantastic. I love it, and I am just absolutely raring to watch the next episode and read the next couple of volumes, because I am absolutely in love with all the characters, with the main characters, particularly the Elric brothers and Roy Mustang and Armstrong, and as I said, Sonny Straight's character, who I cannot remember, but I'm in love with all of them, and I think they're really great. I even love the bad guys. I didn't even touch on what's her name? I think Lust is her name, and they're like doing their own little subplot. Didn't even talk about Scar's heritage, where he was from this place that the government kind of really treated badly. And Roy Mustang even says that his motives are justified, right? Which I think is fantastic. There is a lot of moral dilemmas being set here for all of our characters, and it's so fascinating and interesting to watch what is driving the Elric brothers is such a fantastic idea. It's just so creative. I can totally see why this has been a classic, an absolute favorite of the anime community for years and years and years. And I'm so excited to see where it goes on from here, because from what the conversations that I've had with others, it only gets better from here. But yeah, Full Metal Alchemist, what do you guys think? I mean, a lot of you, I'm sure, have already watched the series, but I just wanted you to tell me, tell me your stories about Full Metal Alchemist. When did you first watch it? When did you first read it? Have you not read it or watched it yet? Maybe you want to read it and watch it with me. But yeah, tell me what you guys think about the story in the comments below. I'm absolutely loving it, and I cannot wait to make the next video about it. However, allow me to plug just some stuff that's going to happen. We are back next week with Frieren review. We're going to be talking about episodes 2, 3, and 4. So make sure that you guys hit like and subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all the stuff coming out of Manga Theater. I'll catch you guys on the next one. This will probably be back the next week after the Frieren review. But yeah, I'm so excited to continue reading the story, and I'm happy I'm finally reading it. I finally get the meme of Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist. Like, I get that meme now. I get it. But yeah, that's it. Okay, bye. Say bye, Olimar. Say bye. Say bye. Bye-bye. Oh.